For this discussion, I selected The Effects of Reward and Punishment on Reaction Times and Autonomic Activity in Hyperactive Normal Children by Philip Firestone and Virginia Douglas, 1975. In order to give an overview of ADHD, I've just put together a couple of facts about hyperactivity to provide a richer background for a critical analysis of Firestone and Douglas's study. The most important of these, I think, is that ADHD is the most commonly diagnosed illness in childhood. It reveals the relevance of Firestone and Douglas's study regarding behavioural management of hyperactive children, and it's why I found this literature review the three the most important in exploring punishment as a strategy for behavioural modification. Comparing Firestone and Douglas to Humphrey and Lee's article, risk-taking and sensitivity to punishment in children with ADHD, ODD, ADHD, and ODD. Humphrey and Lee measured risk-taking and sensitivity in relation to punishment, whereas Firestone and Douglas compare reward and punishment to reveal their relative effectiveness in changing behaviour in ADHD children. Now, bodies of previous research have revealed that positive reinforcement, so tokens and pennies, reduces inappropriate behaviour in hyperactive children, but disapproval has actually been largely ignored, and this study, I think, filled a gap in the literature regarding the effectiveness of punishment in ADHD children. However, the article does not explicitly express which concepts are independent variables and which are dependent. Now, presenting punishment as the independent variable and behaviour as the dependent would have improved the theoretical framework of the research and clarified how the relationship between these variables was conceptually defined. So aims and hypothesis. So you've got Firestone and Douglas aim to determine whether reward, punishment, or a combination was most effective in changing the behaviour of hyperactive children. Additionally, they wanted to investigate whether there were differences in the effectiveness of these measures in treating hyperactive children versus a control group of children. This aim is different to Mulvaney and Merbert's research on parental corporal punishment in early childhood, as data collection of child temperament and parenting styles is not considered for a focus on reinforcement conditions, which I think relates more closely to the line of inquiry. Is punishment, a reinforcement condition, an effective behavioural modification strategy for children? The aims were clearly stated, and both aims logically followed from the background material, and the hypothesis was testable. So just quickly, what is behavioural modification? Well, in psychology, it's a type of behavioural therapy in which the principles of operant conditioning, so reinforcement and punishment, are used to eliminate some type of unwanted maladaptive behaviour. And these were considered in the design. The design of the method. So just quickly, both sample groups were divided into three in the delay direction time task. The first group was placed under the reward condition, the second under punishment condition, and third under reward plus punishment condition. Under the reward condition, subjects were asked to respond as fast as possible to the instructions of the examiner to press the light. They were encouraged whenever they overreached the baseline mean response time, and there was no feedback for slower response times. Now, under the punishment condition, it was almost the opposite. Well, it was the same in the sense that they had to perform at the same level, but they were told when they were performing too slowly, and there were no responses for faster mean reaction time responses. Under the reward punishment condition, subjects were also required to respond as quickly as possible, as it was in the other two. However, this group was alternately punished or rewarded after every trial. It was carried out after a series of baseline trials, where for the first trial the subjects were not given feedback, and it was only the last 12 that were considered to calculate the mean reaction time for both the hyperactives and the control. I thought that the design method flowed logically from the aims, but not necessarily from the proposed problems proposed in the literature review, as partial schedules were critically raised but were not used in the design method, and the data collection, however, was similar though for all samples in the study. Findings, the reaction times in both sample groups, the hyperactives and the controlled, were influenced by subject group, reinforcement condition, and contextual variances. The three different reinforcement conditions successfully improved reaction times for the hyperactives and for the control group. However, impulsive responses of hyperactive children significantly increased under the reward condition, a result not found under the other two conditions. Overall, the hyperactive responded more slowly than the controls, and responses were more variable than controls. Hyperactives made more interstimulus responses also. These findings were reliable, as they were similar to results found in Cohen, Parry, and Douglas, and valid as the descriptive and inferential statistics were appropriate to the intent of the hypotheses. So just wrapping up the conclusion, discussion, and then on to the limitations. Reward, punishment, and a mixture of the two were equally effective in modifying hyperactive children's behaviour. Firestone and Douglas suggest that this is possibly because both reward and punishment conditions provide feedback to both hyperactive and controlled children. Firestone and Douglas assert the significant influence of reward reinforcement in effective impulsive responses and interstimulus responses within the hyperactive group, which is significantly larger than those of the control group, possibly suggests attentional deficit. Now, impairment of attention is actually, I think, a feasible claim, as this often leads to poor performance in ADHD, and Safi and Bruning 1966 would also support that. However, there is no significant statistical difference between reinforcement groups for the control group, and results appear to indicate that reward punishment are equally effective for this sample. Just in terms of the limitations, I thought that the delayed response time task conclusion limits the conclusions to immediate effects rather than being capable of exploring the unique negative impact of punishment on a children's long-term modification of behaviour. Mulvaney and Mulbert in their research, which was one of the other articles I looked at, suggests that punishment actually does contribute to negative behavioural adjustments in children over a longer period of time. The short duration of the time task also made it difficult to distinguish between differences in the sample group's relative behaviour. Now, the delay interval remains an important determinant in the effectiveness of punishment, and Solomon, Turner, and Lezac 1968 would also support that claim. Furthermore, it is possible that reinforcement was not potent enough, so nicer comments and harsher criticism may have actually produced a larger variance in the results between the groups and between different reinforcement conditions also. And just lastly, there is little knowledge about the extent to which impulsivity in hyperactive children interferes with performance, and this could be an area of further research. There was an attempt to control these impulsive responses, but other than being told to there was no attempt to control these impulsive responses other than being told to avoid them. And I think that this relationship between reinforcement and impulsivity in hyperactive children could be better understood and further looked into if the method is designed to control impulsivity. Indeed, punishment could also be used to control impulsivity in future research. And that's it. Thank you.